powered Nova Nordisk racing machine.
Chip Ganassi.
There we go. I can't forget Ganassi. It is a long one. Joseph and Charlie joined us last year, so this is kind of round 2 again. Quick icebreaker. Funnest thing or the most interesting thing you've done since you've been in Texas? Joseph.
Billy Bob's last night. It's been there.
Charlie?
Went to JR's Steakhouse. Now they against in Colleyville, and yeah, I had an appearance there for Nova Nordisk and walked in there, and apparently there's a lot of history there. I'm not exactly sure the background, but it looked delicious. I didn't have a chance to eat, but it looked awesome.
You guys are kind of roommates tonight. You're starting 7th?
Yes.
And he's starting 8th?
It's an interesting way to put it.
I would have said nearly roommates, not quite roommates.
I want Joseph to talk about how that's going to go, and Charlie can interrupt when necessary.
I think, I don't think we'll be beside each other for very long. And that's got nothing to do with us in the situation. It's just purely how the race is going to go. I think it's going to be really difficult tonight, which makes it really fun to watch. I think because drivers will really struggle around this place with the downforce configuration that we're running with the cars. It's really slippery, and the tires make a big difference. So those first 5 to 6, 7 laps, I think you'll definitely have the packed cars as we start. We'll all be sort of racing and trying to find our position, but then we'll swing out a little bit, and then we'll see all these battles of people sliding around and trying to get around each other. So I think those little battles will start pretty quickly, and that's going to be interesting to see who goes forward, who goes backwards, and that will happen all through the night. I think some people will be going forward one stint, and then the next stint they might just go backwards. So it's going to be really interesting.
And I think especially as the temperature changes over the course of the night, the track temp drops, the wind drops, the temperature starts to fall those 2 or 3 degrees even. You'll see cars that were really good early in the race, if they haven't kept up with it in pit stops, making adjustments to wing angles and tire pressures and the few tools we have in the cockpit, you'll see those guys cycle further back in the grid and are in the order, and the guys who've been able to make their car better and move forward. So I think anytime, especially if we have a yellow flag stop when we come out on fresh tires, everyone's going to look really racy right away. And then there's some guys that will be more careful early in the stint, and for the last half of the stint, they'll look like they've got fresh tires on when other guys are spending more time turning right than they are turning left, which will be quite interesting.
Give a question. I want you to start thinking for Joseph or Charlie. If we're doing questions with the audience here in a few minutes. Texas last year produced a great race, great finish. Graham Rahal nearly won. We had him up here yesterday, one of your Honda teammates. Thinks anything can happen. And that's where I'm kind of going with my next question. Charlie, you were 2nd at Toronto last year. Joseph darn near won the Brazil race this year. And so both of you guys are knocking on the door. You're about to punch through that first win. You're 2 young guys in the series. Can it be your night tonight?
Well, I think so. I mean, I've been, for the last few years, I've decided that I need a cowboy hat. And I'm a big fan of earning it. So I like the idea of heading to victory lane. And actually, my chief mechanic this weekend said that we have to win this weekend because he's won here twice before, once with Al Jr. and once with Scott Dixon. So he has 2 hats. Well, he also has a wife and a daughter, so he no longer has a cowboy hat to wear. So he needs a 3rd so he can complete the series.
I mean, I'm the same way. I want a hat. I want to shoot the gun. Like, the gun is awesome. Like, who doesn't want to do that? So I'm the same way. Like, you can't buy a hat if you're going to run this race. Like, you have to earn the hat.
You got to win the
winning it. So I want a hat.
What's the best part about being an IndyCar driver?
Oh, there's so many. There's so many great things.
Don't call us.
I got to want to hear Charlie's first.
Okay.
There's Charlie for me.
Wow, he's passing the buck, huh? Well, I think it comes down to the places we had to race. The fact that for all of us, I'm going to go ahead and speak for all the drivers. I think we're all race fans to start with all. We all love it coming to races, and more often than not, when we have a race weekend off, you'll find us at a racetrack, be it a go-kart track, or watching MotoGP, Formula One, NASCAR events, those sorts of things, sprint cars, anything really. So to be a race fan and be able to go out and compete and somebody actually makes it their job is very, very special. And the chance to go around the country and meet great fans like yourselves and be parts of events like the Indianapolis 500. And for me, being from Southern California, the Long Beach Grand Prix is very close to my heart. Events like that are always fantastic. Getting to race in Mid-Ohio, basically in a park, and compete there is very, very cool. And then just the places we get to go and do what we love is probably the best part of it.
You see what happens when you let Chuck answer.
I took notes on that.
I thought it was great. There's too many great things.
If you say ditto, it doesn't count.
James, I think for me, I'm the same way. You know, we are, as drivers, we all love racing. That's why we're involved in the sport. That's why we drive the cars. And I think just the fact that you get to drive an Indy car is the coolest thing ever. That's the best part about it. There's a lot of times I've been inside the car, and I've had a moment where I kind of looked around, and I was like, okay, I'm the guy inside the car racing, against all the other people around me. There's a lot of great guys in the series, and it's just a very cool privilege. Not a lot of guys get that opportunity, or girls, doesn't matter. Not a lot of people get that opportunity to do. And for us, we're super fortunate that we were able to make it to this position. And I mean, just to be an IndyCar driver and drive the vehicle that they are, it's incredible. I've thought about that many times during a lot of races. And, it's not like you're not paying attention, but you do get those moments of clarity and reflection on that. It's cool to be able to be an IndyCar driver.
I would agree. I love sport. They're talking about changing the looks of the cars in a couple years. They want to put the aero kits on the cars to make the Hondas look different than the Chevys. We're talking about breaking the track record at Indy shortly. Speed is a big part of IndyCar racing. So your thoughts on the differentiation in the aero kits that are coming, the speed. I mean, talk a little bit about what that's like and what that can bring to the sport too.
Well, there's definitely, we're always pushing for the future, and I think IndyCar is on a great path right now. First off, there's a lot of talk of what do we need to do to improve the series, what do we need to do to get more eyeballs in the series, and in my opinion, I think we already have great competition. We've got the best parity that we've had in the series in a long time. We've got probably the best talent, not only from the drivers, but from the teams, the crew, everyone that's involved. We have an incredible depth of talent right now. It's made for amazing racing, just amazing racing. We've had so many good races so far last year, and I think this season, Brazil was incredible, Indianapolis was incredible. I think every event we've been to has been great, and I think it'll be the same thing here tonight. So there's nothing really wrong with the show, but we are obviously looking to always improve and make it better. So to bring aero kits in, I think is definitely a great thing. That's talking about the innovation and what we can do with the technology of the sport, and always pushing the boundaries and trying to differentiate the difference between the manufacturers of Chevy and Honda and potentially someone else if they want to come in later on. So that is on the horizon. And then, as you said, we also want to break the speed record at Indianapolis, which is a great goal, I think. The biggest thing that we've thought about with this, though, is safety. Safety is obviously our most important item in the series. We always think about safety first. We always look at safety when we're trying to do something. We're trying to improve something for the future. So trying to increase the speed at Indianapolis, the record is 237 something, I believe. 237 miles an hour for an average around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That's very fast. And this year we did a 228 mile an hour qualifying lap. So we're not far away. That's only 9 miles an hour, and I think that's very achievable for us to do. So we want to get up to those speeds. We want to be, able to break the track record, and I think it's a pretty cool thing to be able to say, I have the fastest average lap time around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So that's definitely a goal for us, and I think it's very achievable in the next 3 to 4 years, which is what we're laying out. We're also looking how we can do that the safest way possible. So these are all great things.
Yeah, and I think the science and the innovation, the engineering standpoint of IndyCar racing is what it was built on. A lot of the aerodynamic developments and a lot of the engine developments, the chassis going from just steel tubes to aluminum honeycomb to carbon fiber now. All of those developments have been a part of the evolution of the speed of IndyCar racing. So to get back to that and refocus a little bit on that, going faster, but doing it intelligently. As Joseph said, talking about safety, because each time you go faster, the energy goes up, not just at that same level, but at a square. I mean, it goes up every time you go 10 miles an hour faster, the hits are 100 times harder. So you have to make sure that you're doing it right. But I know that IndyCar is focused on that, on getting us to the right speed, getting us going quicker. As drivers will always take more horsepower, no question. We'll always go faster, because that's what we're here for. We're here to go fast, we're here to compete. But as long as we can do it intelligently, I think it is the right goal. And I like the innovation of having different, visibly cars. Visibly different cars that looking at it, that it's a Honda-powered car because it looks like a Honda-powered car. Even if structurally they're all the same, having that visual difference is important, because you can come root for your favorite car manufacturer. You drive a Honda at home, you drive a Chevy at home. Hopefully you drive other manufacturers, be it VW or Audi or Porsche or Mercedes or any of those coming into the sport. You can come root for that same car on the racetrack. Okay, it still looks like a jet fighter on the ground in a single-seater race car, but you know that it's still a Honda at heart.
Very good. Questions? Anybody? For Joseph or Charlie? Ask him anything.
Well, almost anything.
Almost anything.
Clarify that.
Come on.
So can you tell your competitors on the track? Can you tell who you're around and in front of and behind?
Yes, yeah, as drivers we can. Most of us know the car liveries and the helmets, and we also have numbers on the back panel of the car, inside the wheel guards.
You can see those.
Yeah, and also another tool that we have is spotters. And spotters, one of the biggest jobs that helps us is that they give us that information. They'll say, you're coming up on this guy, and you have this guy behind you. And that's a big help for us. Generally, we can tell as well who we're coming up on or who's behind us, but it's also helpful to have that eye in the sky that gives us that extra info.
And one of the other pieces, if you'll notice, Tristan's the only one, isn't he? As far as rookies, across the rear panel, I guess the rear beam, is what we call it, below the rear wing, that attaches to those wheel guards, is a fluorescent yellow on all the rookies' cars. So you'll know if you're coming up on a rookie, be it in Indianapolis, be it here, even on the road courses. I think it's less prevalent or less important on a road course because you have a little more time to check out closing rates and that sort of thing. But on the oval, that's one of the other tools we have. And especially early in practice yesterday, when guys haven't run here in traffic, it's like, all right, they haven't been in a car in a year. Your spotter's telling you, hey, keep your heads up for this guy, or this guy's slow on the bottom. That guy's car looks terrible. Just keep your eyes out, be careful as you go by him, type of thing. So you get a lot of information from a lot of different points.
Very good question. Other audience question? Yes, over there.
Hello.
The two race format last week in Detroit, is that pretty tough on you physically?
So physical. Detroit, it's on an island, so Belle Isle, just outside Detroit, is a very physical place. It's one of the bumpiest tracks that we go to, so all the road has a lot of imperfections, and it has changing styles of the road. So you go from concrete to asphalt, back to concrete again, and it's extremely bumpy. It's a very physical place, and for some reason, it feels like it's extremely hot there. Normally it's hot when we race there. It wasn't as hot this year, but just for some reason inside the car, you get really warm and hot in the car, and it's humid normally, so it's a really tough place to run for an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, and then have to do it again on Sunday. It was already so hard to do on Saturday, you got to do it again on Sunday. So, yeah, for us, I think everyone will tell you that they were physically drained after Saturday, and I think even Sunday you saw people were fatigued, and they started making mistakes on Sunday, and that's why we had some incidents happen.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that we talked about as a team, at least in strategy meetings, was being aware of people making those mental mistakes, or thinking You know, that they had a good completed when they didn't, when they were just not thinking a little bit as clearly as they were Saturday, just from that fatigue. So one of the things we, as a team, really focused on was, as soon as I got out of the car Saturday, we're already thinking about something. Quick debrief, give the engineers much information, and I got out of the track, hydrated, had a good meal, got a good night's sleep, came in for warm-up, and then tried to keep my schedule clear so that I could take a bit of a nap and do kind of a mental reset and get ready to go for race day. You know, I felt decent because
You led last, crazy.
yeah, I did. For I think last time I led last was
I was yelling at
last year.
JD like, Coach Harper, great talking to you.
I was yelling in the car, so
Yeah.
you weren't the only one.
You're right, yeah.
And yeah, after the race, I could tell when I took the lead because within 3 minutes of that, my phone had blown up with a bunch of text messages from friends and family with photos of the TV screen of which was pretty funny. But I think physically, it was difficult, but Joseph and I both trained at the same gym in Indianapolis, baseball pit bed, and one of the things all winter we talked about was the physicality of a doubleheader. So we really worked towards that goal. So physically, I don't know that it was a huge problem. I mean, we were tired, but the mental aspect and the mental focus needed for 140 laps of racing, 70 each day was very hard.
Another question.
Yeah, thanks for coming up, guys. When I heard a comment today, so I'm going to ask you guys, you're young. When I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, the cars looked a lot different than these. I'm from Indianapolis. And I just wonder, if you guys look back at those races of those cars, and you think, wow, would have loved to drive one of those, or you think, man, there's no way I'd crawl in one of those things.
That's a different era. Those guys were nuts. I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah, comparatively, what we do today is very sane compared to what they did then.
Yeah, I mean, it is very, very safe nowadays, Nicky, bro. Technology has come so far, and I think it's hard to look back in retrospect because looking at it now, you would say that's nuts what they were doing. But back then, you didn't know any better. You didn't know that, hey, in 40 years, we're going to have this technology that's going to keep us that much safer, where it's going to be a pretty safe sport. So I don't know. I mean, it's hard to look back. Looking at it now, I would say it's nuts. I don't know if I would do it nowadays. If that was, if there was a series like this and then another series that was like that, nowadays, if you could run in it, I would not run in it. I don't think a lot of people would. So,
yeah, but having said that, I'd like to drive the cars. I'd like to see what they're like, and I would never like to have to compete because I wouldn't want to push them to their limit because they are 40 years old. and so the technology is 40 years old and the safety is 40 years old. And that was all I meant. That was not a comment about, people that are older and with more experience and knowledge, obviously. But it'd be fun to drive them because that's where the history of our sport is based and the foundations of what we do today is from what they pioneered all the way back to the 20s, in the Martin Wasp and Rangaroon, all the way through, in the developments of aerodynamics and all of that engineering side. As the son of an engineer, I'm really interested in that history and that foundation.
Very good. Other questions from the audience?
Superstitions or good luck charms?
Superstitions or good luck charms?
With me, it's not so much superstition as there's just a certain routine.
Eat something today, Wednesday, or?
Well, and with me, I was diagnosed with diabetes about 5.5 years ago, so I have type 1 diabetes, use insulin to manage it. And so for me, my meal is very similar, if not the same, before the race, just so I know how my body's going to react and I can prepare for that. It's less about wanting to eat the same thing as superstition. It's more about getting ready and knowing what I've got going into the race.
That's my daughter yelling in the background. So she must agree with you. What lucky hat, tie your shoes,
let me tell you, okay, if you feed me beforehand and I have water, I'm happy. I want a good meal beforehand, or a bad meal, just food and water. I got no superstitions. It's funny because that's one of the biggest questions everyone asks. They go, yeah, hey, what's the superstitions of the driver? And some guys have some serious superstitions. There's some people that you can mess with.
Within the IndyCar series?
Oh yeah.
Give me a couple.
My engineer.
Yeah.
Your engineer.
I think the engineering staff, like across the board, are more superstitious than drivers in general. Like my engineer today, he dropped some change, and he would only pick up the ones that were heads up. No joke. 2 years ago, my car had a little bit of green on it, and he was like, "That's why you crashed, because it's green. Or you felt lucky." No, not. We got to change that for next year. I'm like, you got to talk to the sponsor then. So.
Any other drivers with weird habits that you know of? I mean,
I knew some guy when I was younger that like had a thing with peanuts. I have no idea why, and I know people would mess with it and put peanuts in the seat, and he'd like want to get in the car, and then like he was all messed up. He didn't want to drive the car because he saw peanuts in the seat. I knew it was, but I like he was wigged out by peanuts. It's so weird. Some guys are like that. It's just
Like, talking for myself, I always step into the car with my right foot first from the left side of the car, and that comes from,
is that a superstition?
it's routine, right?
Well,
Well,
you do that. Are you messed up if you don't do that?
it doesn't
Like if
feel,
someone's blocking the right side, like, hey, you know,
yeah, I feel like
see, there you go.
but okay,
That's his thing. Like,
it's a
got you now.
superstition based on fact,
Watching on the
because,
grid.
well, no, because look,
you should you'll start next to him today.
You should go by. Today he gets in with his left foot first. Yeah. Oh, I got him. Yeah.
it comes down to the fact that the pit bull's on the left-hand side of the car on an oval. And, you know, like even here in Texas, there's no wall between, I know this is definitely justifying, but it's true because I like to keep the car between me and those nut jobs on track to 220 miles an hour.
All right. One more question, and then plenty of time for hero cards and pictures. Anybody? Yeah.
Charlie, what does your doctor recommend your blood sugar be before and during a race?
My healthcare team, it's not just my doctor, it's my diabetes educator and nutritionist, a couple of sports physiologists I work with. If we figure that a good starting blood glucose is between 150 and 180, because that way it gives me range to burn off and also climb before I see any effect in safety or competitiveness, mental acuity, that sort of thing. And the biggest thing is stability. If I'm at 148 and climbing gradually, I'm fine with that. If I'm at 152 and falling, I'm drinking or eating something before I get close to the race so that I'm able to get in and focus on it. And that takes an adjustment all day to get prepared for that.
Anybody else? Guys, thank you very much. Big round of applause for Joseph.
Going back to what y'all said about those cars, like how they play with the cars, what cars are you concerned about?
What drivers are you concerned with your spotters telling you are coming through the field?
He just went there.
What do you think about when you hear Charlie's in PA here? Ah! No!
Yeah, well, that's because he's in P7, not in P1. So that's a typical reaction anytime he's outside of P1, right? I mean, that's just a racing record reaction. That's not on anything particular.
I don't know. I mean,
Different tracks, it's different.
it's different for different tracks. That's a really good question. I think it's going to be hard for us to give you an honest answer right now. Because we were talking about this later. It would be different, I think. But it is true. It is different at different tracks. Some drivers perform differently and they have different habits at a different type of track. So one guy might have a tendency on an oval to do something, but he doesn't have that tendency on a road or street course maybe. And, you wouldn't be as nervous to approach him or race with him. So it does depend. That's a good point.
Yeah, and you sort of, especially here with the spotters, it changes throughout the race. We talked about the cars changing and even throughout a fuel stint and a tire stint. So some cars will do really good early and they'll come up behind you and you think, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to keep this guy behind me. Or you drive up to somebody and they're like, it's the 25 car in front of you. tires are falling off and you can't run the high groove, if you can get up top, you can go line out there. So there's different pieces of information that come in, and there's not really, I don't know if there's anyone that it's like, you're afraid they're going to crash you. I mean, we can't rub on each other on some other series, we can't push each other around, because it ends your day just as much as it ends their day. And we have, I think, so much respect for the other drivers, especially because of the speeds we're traveling. We are, most all of us, are very respectful of each other and make sure we give each other racing around, especially here at the high banks of Texas and places like Indiana, Iowa, Pocono, Montana, those kinds of places for sure. So great question.
Yeah, that's it. I wanted, you got time for some pictures and a few autographs with Joseph and Charlie, and then look for them tonight on the track. Charlie number 83, Joseph number 67, and they start 7th and 8th tonight, and with some bets both play.
Thank
You guys, thanks everyone.